The witness will take an oath before the Iron Club statue this morning. President, thank you, Mr. Sirong. The Chamber now decides on the request by Nuon Chea. The Chamber has received a waiver from Nuon Chea dated 11 June 2015, which states that due to his health, there is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his right to participate in and be present at the 11 June 2015 hearing. Having seen the medical report of Nuon Chea by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 11 June 2015, who notes that Nuon Chea has a severe back pain and dizziness when he sits for long, and recommends that the Chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber grants Nuon Chea his request to follow the proceedings remotely from a holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means. The AV unit personnel are instructed to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nuon Chea can follow it remotely. That applies for the whole day. And before the Chamber hands the floor to the co-prosecutors to continue putting questions to the witness, the Chamber would like to inquire from the parties. Yesterday, the Chamber notified the parties on the rescheduling of the hearing for this week and next week. And the Chamber would like to hear if there is any observation from parties on the said rescheduling. If any party wishes to do so, please proceed. And the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Merci, bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors and the parties. Regarding the change in schedule, we were informed yesterday at 4:30, I believe, of the inversion of two witnesses. In that schedule, I believe it would appear reasonable that we should start with the first witness tomorrow morning, which would give the parties a bit more time today to examine witness Kelkin. That is the suggestion I would like to make. That will give us a bit more time to prepare for the next witness. Thank you.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, good morning, Mr. President. Thanks for allowing us to express an opinion on this problem. I do not have any remark following the co-prosecutor's remarks. I would think that we need additional time to prepare for the examination of the witnesses, and we would also have an opportunity to look at the documents that we need to use in examining the witnesses, and it will give us more flexibility as well.
President Council Carpet, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. A related question from this side. We understand that there is a meeting planned for students between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock tomorrow. How does that affect the schedule of tomorrow's session?
President, in fact, the Chamber would also like to notify the parties regarding the meeting, but first the Chamber would like to hear from the parties. The Chamber already notified the parties that tomorrow morning there will be no hearing, And instead, the hearing will be started in the afternoon. And if the witness, that is through TCW 932, is going to start, then the chamber will give only one session first to the co-prosecutor, and we will resume it the next day. And that is the purpose of the rescheduling. As we all know, tomorrow the Office of Administration will borrow the courtroom for a workshop for tomorrow morning session. Any other observation from any other party? Or what about the co-prosecutors? Would you wish to make any stand, as there will be no hearing for tomorrow morning session, and indeed it will be held in the afternoon?
Pas vraiment.
Not really, Mr. President. We were not informed of this change in schedule tomorrow morning in the emails we received. I do not know whether it would have a major incidence on the schedule. I imagine that it is still proper for us to start tomorrow afternoon as regards the next witness, in order not to disrupt our schedule too much.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have only very brief remarks to make. We will adapt to the situation, but we do not have the documents we will be using on the interface, but we can start this next witness in the afternoon, so the chamber and the parties should be flexible and bear in mind the fact that we have not been informed well in advance of the documents that we need to use for the next witness.
President, thank you for the observations by the parties, and the chamber will take your observations into consideration. And after the short break, the chamber will notify it of the rescheduling. And now we would like to hand the floor to the co-prosecutors to continue putting questions to this witness. And you may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's something I would like us to clarify. How much time do we have this morning? Do we have to go up to the 10 hours, 10 break? Would we have a bit more time with the civil parties to put questions to the witness? We would like to go up to 11 a.m. That is the motion I would like to make this morning. Regarding the next witness, I think we should clarify this point now before we start, so that we can adapt ourselves accordingly to the situation.
President, for the combined time for the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers is 2 sessions. And actually, yesterday the chamber allowed you 10 additional minutes yesterday. It means that you already finished 1 session, and you only have 1 session this morning. That is the combined session for the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers for civil parties. And the most that we can do is for you to have an additional 5 minutes, so that we take a break at 10:15.
Bien, merci.
Very well, thank you. Witness. This morning I'll continue putting questions to you, essentially on 2 subjects. First of all, the arrest you witnessed on the Kampong Chenang airport construction site and working conditions of the people working there. May I request you to be very specific and to carefully listen to the questions. I will start by reading 3 extracts of your OCIJ statement, E3/5273, in which you refer to those arrests. The first extract is on page 5 in Khmer, page 4 in French, and page 4 in English, and I quote, "The majority of the people were from the East Zone. That is, the majority of the workers. Many of them were executed, more than the others. I saw people coming from the East Zone. They were working on the airport construction site. They were tied up. 30 people each time were then put in a Chinese truck that was going to Phnom Penh, because the truck was on National Road 5 heading for Phnom Penh." That is the first extract. The second is on page 5 in Khmer, page 5 in French, and page 4 in English. The question that was put to you was as follows. Did you know why they took people from the East Zone to build the airport? Why did they tie up these people and transport them in trucks to Phnom Penh? And your answer was as follows. I heard them say that these people were KGB and CIA spies. They took them to be tempered because they were accused of betraying Angkar. I didn't know the reason that they arrested them, but I witnessed this twice. They pointed guns and pushed the people into a truck and transported them away. End of quote. And the third is on page 5 in all 3 languages. And this is what you stated. I had been to visited Levay's office at Kampong Airport construction site, and I saw people pointing guns at those people, and they were taken away at around 6 or 7 p.m. The arrests were always done in the presence of Levay. End of quote, free translation. Now the following follow-up questions will be put to you. Do you know what those people from the East Zone were told? I mean, the people who had to be arrested and tied up. What were they told in order that they wouldn't revolt or try to flee?
I saw them being called to a meeting, and then they pointed a gun at them. They were in an office, and the door was closed, so they couldn't find anywhere to escape, and there were also guards stationed outside. They were tied up and put into trucks. There were 2 or 3 trucks, and the trucks then left Kampong Chhnang Airport in the direction of Phnom Penh along National Road number 5. And I saw Levay present at the location where those workers were tied up. He was with his bodyguards. So those people were tied up, and then they were put into a Chinese trucks. I could observe what happened from a far distance, as I didn't dare to go near, although I did not know the exact location where they were transported to. And most of the people who were arrested were from the East Zone, as they were alleged or accused of betraying Angkar, and they were accused of being KGB or CIA agents.
Merci.
Thank you. I have very specific questions now, so I would like you to answer as briefly as possible regarding the trucks that transported the people who were arrested and tied up. Did they belong to Division 502.
Yes, indeed, they belong to Division 502.
Et les chauffeurs qui...
How about the drivers of those trucks? Were they also from Division 502? And were they working on the airport construction site?
The drivers also belong to Division 502, and they were working also on the airport construction site, although I did not know them well.
Vous avez dit avoir travaillé au...
You stated that you worked at the garage. So you saw all those trucks. When you saw the trucks leave the worksite, on board which were people from the east who were tied up, did you see the trucks return to the construction site, and how long after did you see them return?
Sometimes the tractor returned around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They were large military trucks, although I did not know the specific model of the trucks. And the trucks didn't park at the garage where I worked, but they were parked at a garage to the east of the construction site.
D'accord.
Very well. Before the OCIJ investigators, in the extract I read out, you said that you had heard that the people from the east were accused of being traitors of Ankara or spies of the KGB or the CIA, and they were sent to Kampuchea to be re-educated. Do you know who decided that they were traitors?
I only heard the group chief and the unit chief talk about it, that those soldiers from the East Zone were accused of being traitors, and I did not know the real reasons for the accusation.
Est-ce que sur le chantier,
on the work site, were those soldiers from the East Zone who were accused as being traitors, were they considered as normal soldiers or as prisoners?
The soldiers from the East Zone, to my observation, only some of them were accused of being traitors, and not all the soldiers were accused. And sometimes the ordinary soldiers were arrested together with their unit chief and were tossed onto the tracks. And they were blindfolded, and I could not recognize them all. President Council Copper, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rose too late to make an objection, so it's now an observation in relation to the question asked by the prosecution. However, it's not an either-or category. You can be a prisoner, but you can still be a soldier at the same time. Soldiers can get punished for all kinds of unlawful activities, of course also for treason. So the question posed to the witness whether they were either soldiers or prisoners is, I think, an incorrect question. However, it's an observation, not an objection anymore.
Bien, vous avez dit que...
Very well. You stated that the people from the east were accused of being traitors. Now I am talking of the group of all the people from the East Zone, not only those who were arrested and put in the trucks. Did you know whether those people from the East Zone were sent to the Kampong Chinang airport construction site to be re-educated or to be tempered?
They were sent to the airport work site to be tempered. And later on, some of them were arrested, although I did not know the real reasons for their arrest.
Alors, vous avez dit que tout...
Now, you stated that all the arrests, at least those you witnessed, occurred under the supervision of Talvey. Among the cadres present during those arrests, did you see Song, that is the supervisor, who was with you among the first 10 members of Division 502 who were present? Did Song also witness the arrest?
No, I did not see Song at the site where the workers were arrested. There were some other military commanders there. They were battalions commanders and regiments commanders, although I did not know their names, and the only person that I knew of the senior position was Levey.
Parmi les...
Among Levey's messengers and bodyguards, was there a person called Kong alias Kui?
Yes, there was. Yes, there was a person by the name of Kon alias Kui. But at the time those workers were arrested, he was not present at the site, as I did not see him.
Est-ce que vous savez quand...
Do you know whether Kong alias Kui, apart from being Talvey's messenger, played any role in the surveillance of the workers working at that work site?
No, he actually works for the transportation unit. I believe he did not involve in any guarding duties, and later on he was not trusted by the leadership at the site anymore.
Est-ce que les gardes faisaient...
Were the guards members of the special unit called the Protection Unit?
Yes, there was a protection unit, and previously it was called a messenger unit.
Concernant les cadres...
Regarding the cadres, you said you no longer recall some of their names. Do the following names ring a bell? Tuk, T-H-U-O-K, Yang, Y-E-N-G, and Suon, S-U-O-N.
Answer. I knew the individual by the name Ye. He was in 132 unit, and Punlok and Teng. Punlok and Singh.
Et cette unité 132, j'imagine que c'était avant.
Unit 132 12:32, I imagine it was before 1975. Was there such a person in the airport?
Answer. He was in Kampong Chanang province. He was in the unit there. Pon alias Kui and I were the ones who constructed a building at that place. I knew this individual.
I would like to quote one last E3 /5273 on page 6 in Khmer and in French, and page 5 in English. And this is what you said. There were criticism sessions which had gathered those who did not meet the established quota. And it was said that if after 2 or 3 sessions we were good to be smashed. And indeed, I had noticed that people who had been criticized really did disappear. I never witnessed any executions. End of quote. How did you know that one was good to be smashed if they hadn't listened after 2 or 3 self-criticism sessions?
Answer. After the criticism, and if the person did not deter, he or she would disappear, and the meeting would be called a letter to advise and warn others not to follow the steps of the individual that disappeared. If we did not follow the order by the leadership, we would disappear. So there was a criticism session to see whether we could implement our work.
If I understand correctly, there were not only disappearances or arrests of people from the East Zone, but there were also purges within 502 Division. Is that what you are saying?
Answer. Yes, that is correct. There were purges as well. If someone was affiliated with the former regime, he or she would be purged. And we were under surveillance whether we did not go anywhere freely. We were working at the work site. We could live with them, but we were under watch.
What about your working conditions now? Did the workers, whether from Division 502 or other divisions, have any rests or days off? And if that is the case, how many per month?
Answer. People from Division 502, and as for me, I went to work at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we were in our workstation, and we were working until 11 a.m. in the morning. There were no weekends for us. We had to do our work always.
And so if I calculated that you spent at least 2.5 years there, during that period, were you able to take a leave to visit your family?
Answer. No, I never made a request to visit my family because we were warned not to walk freely. Our quota was to work at the work site. Again, we were not allowed to walk freely. We were urged to complete our work as soon as possible. I did not have time to visit my family or my parents. My parents had been evacuated to Battambang province. They were living in Battambang province.
Bien.
Very quickly, I have little time left. On the construction site, were the people from various divisions, including those from the East Zone, were they allowed to have discussions or fraternize with other divisions?
Answer: no. We were focusing on our work. We did not have time to discuss with people from the East Zone, even though I was in Division 502. I did not have time to discuss with my colleagues from the same division. We did our work until 11 a.m. and by that time we were allowed to take a rest for lunch.
You said about the workers at page 6 of document E3/5273. You said, I could see people getting sick on the work site because they did not eat enough or they were working too hard. End of quote. Except people from Division 502, the other soldiers that were on the work site, did they look in good health? Were they built or were they skinny?
Answer: they did not have enough strength to work, but since they were afraid of the leadership, they focused on their work. We did not have enough food to eat, actually. And for my group, we had the food ration that we were given. Although we could not eat our fill, we just bore the situation, and we had to work until the break time.
Est-ce que vous
Do you know if within the other groups that were not part of Division 502, there was more or less food than what you received?
Answer: I have no idea whether they had enough food to eat. As I stated earlier, I did not have freedom to walk freely. I had to work without any days off, and if I were to walk around, I would be accused of communicating with other people.
One last question, which might concern you a bit more closely. It is about how the vehicles and machines were used, and such as the steam rollers. We had a witness yesterday who mentioned that there were suicides of women who would throw themselves under the wheels or under the steam rollers. Other witnesses have mentioned this, such as TCW 866, also mentioned this in document E3/5284 on page 4 in each of those languages. And so that witness said the following: I heard that people had to throw themselves through under the wheels of vehicles to commit suicide, but I did not know why. it was these kinds of suicides happened very often. End of quote. And so you, when you worked at the garage with all these vehicles, did you hear or see in these cases of suicide?
President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. Mr. Kolpe, you may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. If this isn't a classical example of a leading question, I don't know. He could have asked first, does he know anything about suicides, and then maybe confront him afterwards, but not feeding him with other testimony from other witnesses on this subject and then ask the question. This is, we're not allowed to ask leading questions, as I understand. Prosecution is not allowed either.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, this is a method that Mr. Koppe uses in each of his examinations systematically, so I could perhaps rephrase my question in a more neutral fashion. Mr. Witness, did you hear or see suicides on this construction site, especially people throwing themselves under the wheels of vehicles?
Sorry to interrupt, but he just fed the information already, so the leading question still stands. It doesn't make any sense to pretend to rephrase. He just gave the witness this information. It's leading. True, I sometimes ask leading questions, but that is in cross-examination. So I don't think this witness can answer this question anymore. So I again object.
Mr. President, there is no distinction between examination and cross-examination in this court. We are not in a common law court. These are trial chamber witnesses. They are not witnesses of the prosecution or the defense. There is no cross-examination, and so I would like to be able to ask my question.
President, the Chamber would like to make a decision on this matter. I would like to inform the parties that there is a rule applying before the Chamber that prevent the parties from asking leading questions. And the Chamber now deny the objection of the defense counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia. This question is not a leading one, and the witness can provide response to this last question by the co-prosecutor, if you may recall the question.
Merci. Donc, indépendamment.
Thank you. And so, regardless of what other witnesses may have said, have you, Mr. Witness, heard of such cases of suicide, or have you seen? If you haven't seen anything, just tell us.
Answer. I never witnessed and I never heard of such incident. I was working in the garage. I was at the garage building it. I was not the driver of steamrollers or of any vehicle, so I stayed in one particular place. I did not see them or hear them.
did you hear of people trying to escape from the construction site of the Kampong Chhnang airfield?
Answer: I did not know about that. I did not hear that some people tried to make an escape, and from my prediction, people at the work site could not make an escape, even they tried to do so. I did not hear people were attempting to escape.
One last thing before I leave the floor to the Council of Civil Parties. So near the end of the regime, when the Vietnamese got closer to the airport, what did the cadres from Division 502 and the supervisors do? And what was done with the thousands of people who worked on the construction site? What happened to them? Where did they go? Which way did they go?
President, please wait. Mr. Witness, I see you on your feet. You may now proceed, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to make an observation and subsequently object to this question. According to the final submissions of the prosecution, paragraph 304 and 305, unlawful killings in relation to East Zone cadres happened after 7 January 1979, hence outside of the temporal jurisdiction of this tribunal. So I'm not sure where the prosecution is going to, but I think we should all bear in mind that there is a temporal jurisdiction issue as argued by the prosecution itself in its final submission.
Mr. President, I'd like to reply. So my question is about December and early January, which are still within the temporal jurisdiction. And even it is after 7 January, it is important to know what happened, because this gives us an idea on the status of people who may have been killed after 7 January. And so within a historical context, it is important to ask such questions, even if technically they are outside of the trial's temporal jurisdiction. So, Mr. President, may I ask my question?
President, the Chamber denied the objection of Mr. Defense Counsel. This question is within the temporal jurisdiction of the trial, and it is connected to the fact which is being tried before this chamber. Mr. Witness, you can make a response to the question by the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor. If you may not recall the question, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, you can repeat the question. And in addition to that, the chamber would like to grant 10 more minutes for Mr. Co-Prosecutor because of several objections made by other parties.
Thank you, President. I will rephrase my question. as the Vietnamese were getting closer to Kampong Chhnang, how did the cadres of Division 502 react? And more to the point, what was done with the thousands of workers from the construction site? Where were they sent at that time?
Answer: when the Vietnamese troops were about to arrive in the country, I saw workers were put in trucks and went eastward. I did not know where workers were sent to, and as for Talaway, I had no idea when he left the place. Because of the situation at that time, I was told to flee the place. I have no idea where soldiers and workers were sent to. Once again, I have no idea when Laway left the place. Squad units, group units told me to leave the airfield, so I had to leave.
Est-ce que par la
And later on, did you hear of anything about a supposed massacre of Eastern Zone soldiers at the beginning of 1979 among those who had worked at the Kampong Chhnang airfield construction site?
Answer: I heard people saying this, but I did not know. I did not have the first-hand information. I heard people say that people from the East Zone betray Angka. I only knew that these people were sent out of the airfield. It was said that people from the East Zone betrayed the leadership. I was fleeing the place, so I did not know where they went to.
Merci.
Well, thank you, Mr. Witness, for having answered my questions. I am done with my questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, the chamber gave the floor to lead co-lawyer for civil party. You may now proceed.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to everybody, and good morning, Mr. Witness. My name is Marie Guiraud. I am counsel for the civil parties, and I have some follow-up questions for you. First of all, I would like to ask you some questions about the surveillance that you were under, you and the other workers, and that you raised yesterday and today. And so first, I wanted to ask you if you knew who the drivers were who worked on the construction site. You said that you were responsible for one of the garages. Did you know the drivers who worked on the construction site?
Answer: I did not know them because a driver would arrive at the garage at night time, and they left early in the morning. I did not know the drivers. Generally speaking, I did not have time to chit-chat or to make conversation with all of those people. I did not know all those drivers. Because there were many drivers, I did not know them.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Do you know a Chan Mon?
Answer: yes, I know Mr. Chan Mon. Before his name was Pon alias Kui, but I knew an individual by the name Chan Mon. He was in the same unit as mine.
Je crois que vous en avez.
I think you mentioned him this morning, but what what did he do? What did Chanman alias Kui do?
Answer. When he was with me, he held no position. But perhaps later, when he was transferred elsewhere, he held any other position. I have no idea. What I know is that he was a driver.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I will read to you what Mr. Chanman said. He appeared before you in this hearing room, and I would like to read to you what he said about surveillance on the construction site. On June 9th, he said, and so this is around 1400 hours and 39 minutes, and this is what he said, and I would like you to react to this. He said there were military groups who were patrolling and were guarding. These groups were from the center, but I don't know exactly where from. They guarded the workers. They had surveillance. I mean, they were guarding the workers. They monitored us from these vehicles that they were in. I don't know who they were, but I was told that they were military. This morning, you mentioned the protection unit. And I would like to know if these people that Chanman has mentioned were the same from this protection unit that you mentioned this morning, or if these are different people.
Answer. When I was in division of 502, the guards from protection units were tasked with protecting security for the Chinese delegation. And these guards of protection unit came from Kampong Chnang. They were in a vehicle and protected the security for the Chinese delegation.
Je vous remercie. C'est également ce que nous avons.
Thank you. That is what we understood as well from Mr. Chanman's testimony. Were there soldiers who were patrolling and who were not part of Division 502? Do you remember any of that?
Answer. I do not recall it. As I stated, I was at the garage building the hall in the garage, and I did not go anywhere besides staying in the garage. Perhaps Chanman, he was going somewhere and he knew about it.
Je vous
Thank you. You said you remained in the garage, and so I would like to quote to you what you said to the co-investigating judges. This is in document E3 573 in French, 003 55 857, in English 00290501, and in Khmer 0028 2943. People asked you about the working conditions on the construction site of the airfield, and you said the following. You said from 4:30 to 5 a.m., everyone on the airfield had to go help the people for the transplanting of rice in the rice paddies surrounding the airport. Do you remember that?
Answer, yes, I could recall that question asked. Yes, people woke up in the morning, 5 or 6 a.m., and they started work at that time.
Est-ce que vous-même vous faisiez?
How about you yourself? Were you one of the people who had to go and assist the people to transplant rice?
Answer: yes, everyone went to help. No one was staying in the garage or in any other buildings. Only the cook was allowed to stay at their place. We had to go to help transplant rice seedling every morning until rice seedling had been transplanted, and then we stayed at our place.
Est-ce que vous pouvez être un petit peu plus précis?
Can you be more specific? Did you transplant rice every morning and then return to the garage thereafter? Is that your testimony?
Yes, that's what happened. In the morning, we went to assist those people who worked in the rice field nearby the airfield. And then we left the rice fields to engage in our core task, which was our main duty of the day. And that happened mostly on a regular daily basis.
Pouvez-vous expliquer à la Cour où exactement
Can you explain to the chamber where exactly you, the workers at the airport construction site, went to transplant rice? Was that far from the airport construction site or close by?
It was close to the airport work site at a village called Padang, and it took us only a minute to reach the rice field. And of course, we lent our hand to those workers doing the rice farming. So, for the vehicle drivers, usually they left earlier than us.
ces personnes que vous...
Did the persons you assisted know that you were soldiers?
Yes, they did. They knew that we were soldiers and that we were working at the rice field work site. And allow me to say this, no ordinary villagers or civilians were allowed to enter the premises of the airport work site.
Pour clarifier, Monsieur le
For purposes of clarification, witness, were the rice paddies on the site of the construction site or elsewhere or outside of it?
It was outside the airport work site, and in fact it was situated to the east of the airport work site, and some rice fields were to the south of the airport work site.
Les personnes que vous aidiez,
Did the people you were assisting know that there was an airport construction site close to the rice fields?
Yes, they did. Although they knew that there was an airport work site, they didn't dare to come to enter the work site. And they could only work on the rice field nearby.
je vous remercie, quand tout...
Thank you. When all the workers left every morning at 4:30 a.m. to go and assist the people to transplant the rice, were the workers, that is the workers from the airport construction site, watched over?
There were no guards. Actually, we woke one another up and we just went straight to the rice fields.
Vous y alliez à pied?
Did you go there on foot, in trucks, or by any other means?
We didn't take any truck, we went on foot, and as I said, the rice fields were not that far from the airport work site.
Et pour finir sur ce sujet, pour être...
And to wrap up my questions on this subject, in order to properly understand what you're saying, once they had completed the rice transplanting, did they return to the airport construction site?
Yes, indeed. After we assisted them in transplanting the rice, and we finished usually around 5:30 in the morning, we wash our hands and we returned to engage in what we call duty at the airport construction site. And every day in the morning, even if the transplantation of rice seedlings were not finished, we had to return to the airport work site to start our core task of the day.
Je vous remercie. Je voulais vous...
Thank you. I would like you to react to what Chan Man told us. He testified before you, and he told us that he had been enlisted in the army at the age of 14. By my reckoning, you were aged about 20 when you arrived at the Kampong Chnang airport construction site.
President, witness, please wait, and Councillor Coppert, you have the floor.
I don't believe that is the actual testimony of the previous witness. He said, and he confirmed that yesterday, that he became a military messenger in 1973. He was born in 54. That would make him 19 when he joined the army.
Pour éviter toute discussion, monsieur...
To avoid any arguments, I'll quote the transcript of 9th of June 2015, 9 hours 18 and 20 seconds. The question that was put to him was, at what age did you join the revolution? In what year was that? And the specific question put to him was, how old were you? And the witness answered by saying, I must have been 14. Yes, I was aged 14. So I would like to continue the train of my question, Mr. President. The witness told us that he was aged 14 when he joined the army, and you yourself were aged about 20 when you were on the work site.
President, Defense Counsel Coppert, you have the floor.
He joined the revolution when he was 14. He became a military when he was 19. Joining the revolution doesn't mean that you become a soldier automatically. There's all kinds of other things that you can do as a revolutionary. He became a military when he was 19.
Je vais reformuler, Monsieur le Président.
I will rephrase the question, Mr. President. Witness, did you note the presence of youngsters aged between 14 and 18 on the Kampong Chnang airport construction site?
I am unsure on this point. Workers there were of a similar range of age, although I cannot say how old they were exactly. And they were about my peer. But I could not say for sure as to the exact age they were at the time.
Y avait-il également des femmes?
also women on the work site? And if yes, were there many women?
Yes, there were quite a number of them, and most of them were drivers of us carrying trucks. And usually these kinds of trucks traveled in convoys to transport earth.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I'll try to use the time left. Before the court investigating judges, and I'm still talking of document E3/5273 in French, 00355-858, in English, 00290502, and in Khmer, 00282942. You are talking about people who fell sick, and you told the co-prosecutor a while ago this morning, and you again state in your answer that the sick were transported to Kampong Chenang Hospital. Do you confirm that statement?
Yes, I can recall that. People fell sick due to insufficient food or from overwork, and they were being taken to the hospital, but there were no proper ambulances to take them. Usually they would be placed into a truck carrying earth, and I can also say that usually they will be transported to the hospital at around 10:30.
Est-ce que les personnes qui étaient emmenées à l'hôpital en général...
And did the people taken to the hospital return to the work site to continue working, to the best of your recollection?
Some of them, after their recovery, returned to continue working in the work site, and majority of them did return. I think it depends on the severity of their illness.
Y avait-il sur le site de l'aéroport...
On the airport construction site, were there any doctors and nurses? And were any medicines available on the airport construction site?
No, there were no medical doctors or medicine dispensers. If we were not well, we would inform our group chief, and sometimes he would give us some tablets to take, and other times there were no medicines provided to us.
Pouvez-vous décrire l'endroit où vous...
Can you describe to us where you slept at the time on the work site?
I usually slept at a location west of the work site, and that was the building for trucks and vehicles to park. There was no proper bed. We only slept in that building. And there was no mosquito net as well. So usually drivers would sleep where their vehicles were parked, and as in my case, I slept in that building.
Étiez-vous nombreux à loger dans ce...
Were there many of you sleeping in the building next to which the trucks were parked?
Yes, indeed. Usually, about 10 of us would sleep on a hammock in the buildings where the vehicles were parked. And as I said, there was no proper bedding or mosquito net. We only slept on a hammock. There was no proper sleeping room, or there was no wall at all for the building where the vehicles were parked.
Et avez-vous vu à l'époque si...
And at the time, did you know whether there were dormitories for the other soldiers working on the work site?
Yes, there were sleeping quarters for other workers as buildings were built to accommodate those workers or worker soldiers. Because we were part of the transportation unit, we slept at the building where our vehicles were parked. But for the sleeping quarters where other soldiers slept, it was just a plain building. There were no walls.
Je vous remercie. Est-ce que vous saviez...
Thank you. At the time, did you know whether the workers slept in different divisions separately, or they slept together regardless of their divisions? How was all that organized?
No, they did not mixed amongst various other groups or units. Usually they would sleep within their own group or unit. As in my case, I was part of the transportation unit, so we all slept together, and there was no mixture at all of other workers from other units sleeping with us or with another group or unit. And even during the resting time, we would stay within our own respective group or unit and not to wander around.
Je vous remercie, monsieur.
Thank you, witness. I have run out of time. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, it is now convenient to have a short break. We have a break now and returned at 20 to 11. And court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room for witnesses and experts during the break time, and invite him back into the courtroom at 20 to 11. The court is now in recess.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ